Is it really over? Well, some may say, thank God it is, because the West Indies team going to New Zealand, and some may have forgotten without some of the key players and coming away losing 2-0. Congratulations to New Zealand. They too had some injury problems, and but still triumph in the end. Congratulations to them. And of course, West Indies, as has been the case so often over the past 20 years or so, just left to look and see what lessons can be learned that will hopefully bring about a better outcome moving forward. Welcome to Hartley Reid, Roland Butcher, Stephen Dallin, and Terry Ennis. No, that's not meant to be in order of age or seniority, just the names as they flowed off my tongue. Welcome, gentlemen, as we look back at the test series between New Zealand and West Indies and look forward to what could possibly be ahead.
Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure.
for having me.
Great pleasure, Philip. And good to see everyone else.
Yes, so I think we'll give the retired Test cricketer the opportunity to start things off. I don't think he had too many opportunities to open the batting when he played, but at least he played at a fairly high level and had the audacity to play against us as well. So we definitely need to let him start the ball rolling. Roland, your thoughts?
Well, what can I say, Philip? First of all, day started with optimism and finish as a lot of people perhaps would have expected. Too often, even when you get a start, you always believe that there's a collapse somewhere coming. And if you think that the score was 87 without loss, and then you're all out for 138, that tells a story in itself. And it really finished off, for me, a fairly disappointing tour against not the strongest of New Zealand's teams at the moment, because New Zealand will tell you that they were short of perhaps 4 or 5 of their first team bowlers. So, it was an opportunity to be even more competitive. So apart from the first test, I think really it has been a tough tour, disappointing tour, and I would say not a lot of positives to take from it.
Terry Ennis, what are your overall thoughts on the test match, the third test and the tour generally?
Nothing was surprising really. What we expected, I mean, we hoped for the best, but we knew this is international cricket and this is pro sports. And you don't win or lose games at the actual game itself. You lose and win games in preparation and also in build-up. And it can't be something like a 2-week thing before you go to a tour or a month thing before you go on a tour. It has to be a sustained, process right up from when no one is watching till when people are watching. And our problem right now is we are not doing I think we are doing something, but we are not doing the right things at the right time. And I think that's why we find we are not consistent. I just want to say one thing, like looking at stats. The head of the batting was Graves, right? He scored 283 runs, but he scored 202 in 1 innings, not out, right? So the other 5 innings, you understand what I mean? Like he made what? Another 5 innings, he made 81 runs, right? So consistency at this level will defeat us because we are not consistent at the lower levels. And I think that is where we will continue to flounder. We will have, as I say, we will have moments of brilliance interspersed with a lot of mediocrity. And this has been a thing for the last 25 plus years. And we have to be realistic and be honest with ourselves. Our processes are not that good. Nothing in the 80s can help us now.
We like it so, Terry. The moments of brilliance thing, we like it. I mean, you are as involved with other cricket persons and lovers as I am. And we hear the comments, we hear in the discussions. We like it so. We have the flavor of the day and we have the scapegoat of the day. And those are, to my mind, two of the most noticeable things about West Indian support. Sorry, West Indian fans. The scapegoat of the day, the flavor of the day. Harley, I'm not going to ask for your flavor of the day or your scapegoat at this point in time, just your general comments.
Indeed, what I can say is that Terry identified our major issue. There's a saying, if you fail to prepare, then you must be prepared to fail. And in our preparation in this and the selection of this squad, and indeed having gotten down to New Zealand, the final 11 that we put in the field for all three test matches were not the correct 11. So we happened to we fought very strongly in the second test, raised everybody's hopes and expectations, including mine, to the extent that I felt that there was deja vu yesterday, and there is no way that we could have lost 10 wickets. But hey, we not only lost 10, but 10 for less than 40 runs. So, I mean, it is clear that we were once again flattering to deceive. So that is what happened to us yesterday, down under.
Harley, I was at a function around the time that actually the function started the same time that the cricket started. And after about, I think it was, I don't remember how much time had gone, maybe about an hour or so, maybe a bit less. One of the other participants in the event leaned across and said to me, something to the effect, the guy's fighting, and he was pleased. I mean, he was as pleased as though he was saying to me, the guy's been the game, you know. And he told me, I said, boy, I wasn't even thinking about that. What's his score? And he told me, I think it was 80 something without loss. Well, we all know what happened after that. So you were not the only one who was disappointed. Actually, when I did complete the event and check the score for myself, I was wondering if the guy had given me wrong information. But then when I checked the follow wickets, I realized that his information was correct up to that point in time. Stephen Daniel, we just kept the best for the last. Don't feel left out.
Oh my gosh. Please don't put that on me. Uh, I think everybody has said a number of points that are unavoidable, true, and consistently made when we fail to perform. Terry mentioned the preparation. That, as you know by now, Philip, is one of my biggest concerns. And I think the way that we prepare our players has to be more than going into, Antigua and knocking some balls for 2 weeks before we go. I am a strong believer that one of the things that's really missing in terms of our preparation, and you've heard me say this and mention it in the chats, is our ability to prepare different types of pitches. Now we know that in India, in New Zealand, in Australia, they've gone a step further where they have climate control conditions, and they even some of the state grounds, for example, have multiple different types of pitches that the players can use. But we can probably get into that, further on. But I think the preparation has to be in cricket. Unless you bowl a full toss or beamer, every ball is supposed to hit the pitch, right? So the pitches have different behaviors. Mr. Butcher will be able to identify that fact, comment on that fact. And if we're preparing players using pitches that are going to be drastically different from what they will see when they go on tour, we're not doing them any favors. And we've got to raise the level of preparation in terms of technology that we use. And just to quickly say that if you look at the stats, because I'm also a stats man like Terry, our top 7 that was available during the series scored 1,236 runs. New Zealand's top 7 that was available scored 1,635 runs. If we do some simple
Let's get those figures again, Stephen.
The top 7 available.
Uh-huh.
On some occasions they weren't all dismissed. For example, in the first test, Graves wasn't dismissed, and in the last test, Imlach wasn't dismissed. But not including the not out figures, right? But let's say all the runs put on the board. I'm not specifying whether they were out or not out. New Zealand's top 7 put on the board 1,635 runs.
Mm-hmm.
our top seven put on the board 1,236 runs.
Okay.
What does that mean? That means that on average, right, they put 52.2 per batsman, and we put 30.9.
Mm-hmm.
We had 40 dismissals of our top seven, and New Zealand had 31. You don't need anything else, right? I mean, or we know our bowling was going to be short, but if you look at the discrepancy in the figures on the batting, like the batting was woefully inconsistent. So I would say, as I said earlier in the discussions, that I didn't think that the technical adjustments could be made to really bring a win home. And the most I was hoping for was a draw. And I think I used the terms a fighting draw. I was disappointed that we didn't win, but I was not surprised that we, um, you know, did what we did, because it's been on the cards and we've been doing it for a long time.
Gentlemen, the stats according to Cricinfo seem to be fully updated, and it's showing Justin Graves averaging 29.66 and 2 centuries and a 50 in his brief test career. I say brief because he's played 14 matches. And those are the numbers. And Justin Graves, for just a period of time during the series, was averaging 30. And I felt good saying that you've got one batsman averaging 30. It means that your bat maybe started before the tour. We talk about elephants in the room. The batting certainly must be one of those. We may want to identify some scapegoats as we go. But Roland, we're talking about batting, so we're going to start with you. How do we move forward here?
Well, that is a very
maybe
great.
we can keep into Hartley.
That's a very good question, and it's an extremely difficult question, because the problems that we are seeing now are just really the manifestation of what is wrong in West Indies cricket. We will not see a significant change in the batting fortunes of our players for many years, because until such time as those structures are put in place below, which there are many, to enable better players to develop. So when they get to this level, they've got a chance of succeeding. Until that happens, you're going to get more of the same. There's nothing short term that they will be able to do right now to correct what is happening. We have got a situation where our players are technically flawed, not always because of their own volition. I think many things have contributed to that. I would say the quality of the pitches, the quality of the coaching, the poor standard of our first-class cricket, not a lot of competition. You could go on and on and on, but those are some of the things really that has got us to this point. So we're actually producing, when you get to international level, a player who has not been prolific at first-class level. So how can he be prolific at test level? It makes no sense. That's a higher level. That's the highest level. So, if you're averaging 20s in first-class cricket, do you really believe you're going to come and average 45 in test cricket? So the future does not look great. There's a lot of work to be done. It can be done. Whether we have got the fortitude to be able to do it, that's left to be seen. But what I do know is that we continue to make the same mistakes. I'm not just talking about on the field, the same mistakes over and over again in the development of the game. We are not utilizing people who know how to get it done, but we believe that we know how we can do it. And time and again, year in, year out, it's proven that they cannot do it, but they're still going down the same route. As they say, you cannot keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. Philip, the plain answer really is that you're going to have to put up with what is available right now. And you've got to hope that in 4 or 5 years, if they get those things in place, that you get a new breed of player comes through who is not just skilled, but who is hardened physically and mentally to play the game at the highest level. It's a mouthful, but that's what it is.
Any further thoughts on the batting issues, gentlemen? I think I mean, if you break down the challenges, um, there are many ways you can break them down, but if we look at batting, bowling, wicket keeping, and fielding, we can probably put those together. And then you've got to look at leadership and then also administration. So if we see those as some subheadings, anything else we want to add on the batting aspect, I think Roland has done a pretty good job, but I'm sure that there are other things that we may want to look at.
Well, for sure. I would not insult Roland by even attempting to add to what he said because he covered the full gamut of our cricket. He did it exceptionally well and in his style. We have a serious problem from the administrative level to the player.
Well, I know, Terry, you tend to look at things with your IT background and so on. And I know that you have been working feverishly to identify some tools that can be useful. You may not want to go into that now, but to what extent you think we need to rethink how we go about creating, let's say, an international batsman?
So I will not try to add anything to what Mr. Butcher was saying because he played.
I was giving you out there by getting the technology,
Yeah,
IT thing
I gotta
into
make
it.
sure that I put that caveat first because you don't want to get in Mr. Butcher's bad books. Right? But what I would say is, I would say we gotta go back to the drawing board. We have to have the political will. Don't think about it. We are the only professional outfit that leadership has a split. His focus is split between two things, right? And you know how if you try to manage two things, something is get wrong, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't think.
But before you move on, you're talking about managing two things. You're talking about Sammy trying to manage, but he's managing three. Well, when you say managing two things, what are you talking about?
I talking about the president of our source, our
Oh, you're talking about
he
that.
has split.
Okay.
He has a split. You know, his focus now is split in between two things, right? One which should be more important to him, and one which is more important to us. So that's the first thing.
Well, I think that's about dollars. I think that's really about dollars and cents, Terry. But so I mean, yeah. But go ahead.
But I'm saying to you though, which CEO of which company in any part of the world you feel have split loyalties? That's the first thing. The second thing is for us, the people that will dominate, if we do the right things, that will dominate international cricket in primary school right now.
Say that again, Terry.
The people that will dominate, if we put the right things in place at the grassroots level, the people that will bring us back to some sort of notoriety at primary school now.
Okay, I thought you're right. Okay, I thought you said at first that the administrators, so to speak, if you use that word, who will put things on the right track are in primary school, because if so,
that may be the case too.
It would mean that the players who are going to benefit from that haven't been born yet.
That may be the case too. But
anyway, carry on.
For right now, I think that is where the problem is. We don't understand how to get. We cannot stop playing international cricket, so we don't know how to get the things done. So we don't do anything. And every time something bad happens, we go back to the 80s, or we talk to ex-buddy or somebody that played test cricket, and we're hearing the same things. I mean, like, you could ask, you go down the road and ask Danger Man what's the problem with West Indies cricket, he could tell you, right? But so it does not make any sense. I see every time something bad, we get bowled 27, we had a meeting with the legends. We got bowled 27.
My role is to find him though. Ninja Man, I mean. But go ahead.
I'm saying we got bowled. Our game bowled for 27 happened way long before we actually get bowled for 27, right? And that's the issue that we have, and we are not addressing it. And we just got people who thinking, you got to play 116 tests, you got to score 100 and somebody 1,000 runs. You got to do this. You got to be a cricketer. You got to be something in cricket to understand our issues. Right now, we talk about data and analysis. I don't know what analysis we have, because our analysis cannot be. I don't know what data we'll be using for analysis. because all the data that I look at, right, ain't good, right? So I don't understand how we could analyze and come up like batting orders and who should field first and those things. I really don't understand how we come in and we're using. And to me, people are allowing them to get away with this nonsense, right? If we were a professional outfit, we will not have the issues that we have right now. You give the every format, cricketing format played by West Indies to one coach, one selector with a bread paper thin resume, right? I am not saying he might turn out to be the best coach in the world, or may turn to be the best coach in the world after this. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're using the data that you're telling me and you're doing analysis, he would not be the first person you pull, right? And you cannot tell me and then make an asinine statement like he is because he comes from St. Lucia. That's rubbish, right?
You mean that he was criticized because he's from St. Lucia? That's what you meant.
Because
Yeah.
he comes from St. Lucia.
Terry, doesn't it fit into the same, the selection of Sammy does not fit into the same, it shows consistency because we've been using the best philosophy, best being the name of the philosophy as opposed to best meaning that it was more efficient than something else. We've been using the best philosophy for quite a while now. And I think that's a perfect example of it.
Yeah. So we're hoping that he comes good. And think about it. Everything we are doing with people trying to learn, make people learn on the actual job. You put him in national cricket, the man got average of 12 thing, and you put him in national cricket, what do you expect he can do? You can't get data for that. Then the data you got, then the data you could find that could tell me that you think that this man can score runs at international level. I just don't get it. We took Solazano from West Indies, took him to Sri Lanka. Poor youngster ain't play a game. Actually, I look in his stats and see that he has a test match to his name.
Yes, but he didn't get to do anything because he got injured.
He has to do nothing in the game. Yeah. He gets to do nothing in the game. He got hurt injured fielding.
Yes.
He had an average of bingo numbers and not like 75. I talk about like B, right? You understand? Yeah, bingo number average. We took him to
Sri Lanka.
for with Craig Braffett in Sri Lanka. He did not participate after that, and we have not seen him since. I don't even know if the fella is in cricket anymore, right? Because that's how we do things.
But Roland can help us with that because Roland can help us work out how selectors think.
Well, I can tell you how I think. And I can tell you how Desmond Haynes think.
Okay.
I can tell you how the two of us think for sure.
And how do you think?
How do I think?
Yeah.
Listen, basically, Desmond and myself were very clear in, first of all, what we brought to the table was the fact that between us, there's over 100 years of experience at the highest level, right? Which means that over that period of time, literally everything that's happened in cricket you have seen, right? Or you have been part of. Now, so that gives you a different insight to
unlike many people who've only seen the last 6 months. Nobody on this panel though.
Exactly.
I see them every day, as experts here, there, and everywhere. And clearly they've only been following the cricket for 6 months because the things that they find shocking, even this whole baseball thing, and I watched a video recently. Sorry, Roland, what are your thoughts there, please? I watched a video recently with about boycott. Someone assessing boycott's comments about baseball, and Boycott himself identified a number of players who have been playing in that manner. He even talked about Peterson. Peterson is not a boring cricketer by any stretch of the imagination, but he didn't bat in this ridiculous way that So continue, Roland.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, right, Desmond and myself, obviously, we understand each other very, very well, and we've got that experience over a long period of seeing what makes a successful cricketer, what makes a successful team. We also see what makes a bad team and what makes a bad player. So from that perspective, we were able to work very, very closely. I think the first thing we set out to do is to listen. If you've got players who are less talented than the rest of the world, right? You've got to do other things in relation to those players to get them to perform. So the first thing we set out to do was to get the players to trust us, which is something that has not been an easy thing in the West Indies for a long, long time. Players trusting
Really?
administrators or selectors, etc.
Mm.
Now, and we built up a really good relationship with players, and that was built up on honesty, and you know what we made sure we did with those players was that we were honest with them. Listen, this is a position, this is what you need to do, etc., etc. And there was a level of trust developed amongst the players. Obviously, you know, you've got to look at the players you've got available and try to fit them into the team that you have. But you know, because listen, we could not turn the clock back. You know, the clock has been ticking for a long time in terms of where West Indies cricket was going. You know, what all we could do was, for the time being, was to try to get what we have got to play well. But we did also put forward, you know, many ideas for the future development of the game, where we would get these players down the line. So, as well as being selectors who were picking teams, we were also keeping an eye out on the players coming through, but also suggesting to CWI what we believe needed to be put in place so that you know it would be sustainable, because it's not sustainable right now. You know, you're going to pick players with no batting averages or no bowling averages and expect them to succeed. They're going to fail, and then you're going to pick somebody else, and it's like a merry-go-round. What I would also like us to stop doing is to just trying to copy what everybody else in the world is doing. You know, the whole idea of analysis and data because other people are doing it. We have to go down that route. We want to try one coach because we want to go football management style, a style that has been proven in cricket to have failed. The only ones that have done it before was England with Chris Silverwood, and that was a complete failure, and they went away from that. But we are embracing that. We need to realize that we need to do things that are suitable for West Indies and for the Caribbean. Don't worry about what Australia is doing, what New Zealand is doing, and all those other people are doing. We have to concentrate on what is going to be best for our circumstances. And I don't think we do that all the time. I think we lose sight wanting to be global in terms of what they're doing, and it's out of our reach.
But Roland, isn't that cultural? Isn't that cultural? I mean, if I look at education, for example, we talk, for example, about having inclusive, where you have children who may have special needs in the same classroom as children who may not have special needs, because that's something that's touted in other countries and actually used. And you've seen situations where we try to do that and justify it because it's done elsewhere. What we conveniently don't note is that when it's done elsewhere, it is usually done with that student or those students having, let's say, personal assistants, people to look out for their individual needs within that classroom. So you've got a situation in Barbados where you've got children with special needs in classrooms with a teacher who also has maybe 15 or 20 children who operate along the average, okay? And that teacher has got to find, well, not only along the average, but along the average and above. And that teacher has got to cater to those children who are operating above the norm, those children who are operating at a normal level, and those children who have special needs. So I don't know what sort of human being that would have to be until we create robots to teach in the classrooms. I don't see how that's going to work. So I think using that example, I think that very often, and I'm sure that all of us can find examples in other aspects of life where we like to copy things, but we don't copy and adapt to suit our situation. We just copy the parts that sound sweet.
Philip, just before the others come in, we operate from the belief that others know better than us, which is absolute madness. I personally
know better than us for their situation, but
our people believe that they know better.
Yeah.
So they will adopt their policies. I personally believe, and I'm sure Desmond will say the same, I do not believe that anybody in the world knows any more than I do about developing cricket. And I'm saying that the confidence in myself, right? Our people don't have that confidence in our people. They believe that other systems, other things are better. And that is a fundamental problem that we have. And until we change that, right, and utilize what we've got available to us for our purposes, not for anybody else's purposes, we're going to be finding ourselves in this problem, not just in cricket, but in many other things that we try to do.
Yeah, if I can
Somebody was
chime
jumping in there. Who was that? That's Steven.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, I haven't said anything for a little bit, but I'll speak
The
to
floor is
three.
yours.
I'll speak to, and the ceiling as well, I hope. I'll speak to three examples that really, practical examples that really speak to how horrible a job we're doing, and more specifically, things that need to be addressed. If anybody listened to the commentary during the New Zealand series, you would have heard reference to two of their bowlers, Mr. Ray and Duffy. Duffy actually took 1 year out when he was much younger to fix his action, right? So that, I'm talking about the coaching, as Mr. Butcher mentioned, you need to identify and coach these players all the way up. Now, I know a little bit about bowling, not that much about batting, but if you take a look at Mr. Phillip, and we've spoken about this film, he looks so good when he makes his run, very athletic, busting runner. At delivery point, what happens? His head leans to the left to such an extent that sometimes it's almost parallel to the ground. And his front foot collapses probably more than Jason Holder's. So all of that effort that he puts into his run up is lost at delivery point. That's why he looks like he should be bowling at 139, 140, and he bowls at 131, 132 consistently. Now, how is it that
effort ball is at 131, 132.
how is it that a player could have played so much cricket and come into the international side with that problem? So that points to a coaching problem. Number two, we talk about adopting and using data analysis. How is it that you could be in New Zealand, access to videos, access to the latest stats, access to the performances at the ground that we played the last match at, and you make the horrible mistake of not going in with a specialist spinner? Like you're doing data analysis, but what's your base for your analysis? Number two. And number three, as far as things in the administration changing, they will remain the same until the structure of the board changes. Back in the early 20s, I think it was 2005, started in 1995, but I think everything was put in place in the early 2000s. New Zealand changed their structure. We've got the 6 associations, we've got the 2 members on the board, and it's not run as a professional, in my opinion, organization. What did New Zealand do? New Zealand said, okay, let's work for the good of New Zealand as opposed to Trinidad, Barbados, whatever, right? So they have a system in place now where they have a professional board. And if anybody takes a look at the background, the knowledge, the professional experience of the players, of the members of the board, you would see the difference between our board and their board. And what do the associations do? There are 6 associations, just like ours, but they rotate them annually. 3 boards of the 6 get to play a part in choosing the members of the professional board, so that what they're going to do is obviously going to be for the best of the country. So they're not looking at it with a really narrow lens. So we can talk about things that need to be changed. We can talk about Dr. Shallow performing the 2 roles, but things which I think, and I've said on many occasions, I think is wrong, especially from a governance perspective. But the board and the system has been failing way before him. So unless we get that, in my humble opinion, that radical change in the structure from the top, things are going to continue to be the same, because they'll have the same power that they have right now. We can talk, but what power do we as a collective have to change things at the board? None.
Yeah, well, yeah, go ahead.
I am happy that you have included me in this August assembly this morning today because I am overawed. What Roland Butcher has stated is I'm happy that, well, not that we don't agree because he and I had the privilege of sitting on the BCA board together. So we know what we are saying. The issue is, for years, we have been saying that we need expertise. We have the University of the West Indies Capital Campus, with, which has the remit for cricket in this region. It has some of the brightest people. Roland just identified in our region, from Guyana to Jamaica, inclusive of all the chain, we have enough expertise that we can develop any kind of coaching program for the players. We have enough people. We got Terry Ennis here that if all we have to do is to put out and say, but listen, we are advertising for your kind of expertise, you would apply and we would interview. We have all of the resources within our region to produce the stellar cricketer that we need. But what are we doing? We are persisting with a board that is so incestuous because we have not even looked at how the constitution of the West Indies, Cricket West Indies, is structured. It is there to keep itself going. It does not act against its own interests. So until, and it has been said, Stephen, Roland said it, Stephen said, and Terry, until we have that soul searching and say, listen, what are we doing? Are we looking to advance our own private interests, or are we looking at the game that all this region loves so much and they will die for? And if you recognize, and if we decide that it is the game that is bigger than our personal narrow interests, our very narrow personal interests, we are not going to go any further. No, we are going to talk here, and it's going to sound very impressive, but the powers that be, and Roland can tell you because Roland knows the BCA. I can tell you about the BCA. They are not going to be impressed. They are not going to move because it is based on self-aggrandizement and the devil take behind us where the cricketers are concerned. This is all I can say on that issue.
Philip, I would also chime in now because there's something you mentioned about the education. We don't think out things to the logical end. I believe that we have all the expertise we need in the Caribbean to get us where we want to go. I don't think we have the will, though. I think that's the problem. The other thing is change. Change in the Caribbean. I mean, change anywhere is hard. In the Caribbean is multiplied by 12, right? We don't want to change anything. Every time something goes wrong, we talk about the 80s. You really think there's a method in the 80s that can help me now? None. They can't help us. Now, there's a difference between adopting somebody's stance and using the right tools. Now, if other people in the world using AI tools, we cannot say we ain't gonna use AI tools because it's other people using it. We got to be able to use. I know AI people that program AI applications and know about analysis and all that sort of thing. They don't play cricket, but they could break down things for you, video stuff for you, right? Stephen was talking about Philip and his. When Philip delivers, he's be looking down third man, right? If he looking down third man, how he really can pitch the ball? And he would have played almost every level of cricket in the Caribbean, and that's where he is right now, right? They put a side-by-side comparison between him and Jaden Seals, and Jaden Seals was like 18 miles away from him, right? Head nice and straight, arm nice and straight, leg right down. those are the things that we can use the AI tools to fix. Because we have the brains and the people that could do the analysis, look at their videos and say, okay, this is what is what, and keep that data on our players. So we know that Anderson Phillip had a problem when he was 12, right? Not when he get 25, when he was 12, that his ball and look down third man, so he has to do X, Y, Z to be looking straight down the pitch. I mean, we can leverage the people that we have. And I'm not saying that we gotta get all IT people or all people like me or all cricketers.
I thought you were, trying to find work for yourself and Stephen.
No.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
We can utilize the brains of cricket, and then we can utilize the tools that those brains will be able to tell us. Like Mr. Butcher will be able to tell you if a batsman leg is straight or is not close to the ball or whatever, right? He will know how to break that down. So if you have video of a player and we send to Mr. Butcher and tell you, look, this fella here getting out playing this shot every single time. What is your opinion? You want to tell me that he can't break that down? He can break that down, and then we could take that analysis that he did and put it in a model so that the next time we have a person with that same problem, we don't have to go and check out a video then to send it to Mr. Butcher, because we got tools that will say, okay, Mr. Butcher said that this is it. We put that in the model, and now we know how a batsman is supposed to be playing a particular shot or for a particular ball. Those are the things that we got to do as a people, right? Leverage our people to be able to create the tools and the environment for our people to be successful. Right now, there is nobody that could tell me, if I was an administrator in the Caribbean, I would hide. Because between 1996, the last person that...
And especially if you had the option to do so because the government offered you a job as Minister of Sport.
Between 1996 and November 25th, 2025, we had 7 batsmen that averaged over 35. 7. Right? And the only one that is current will be Bonner. He averaged 38. You understand what I'm saying? You imagine in 30 years we could only get a batsman that could average, that we only have 7 batsmen that over average 35? It's 30 years. No.
Can I just jump in here?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I'm glad you mentioned the example of somebody of Mr. Butcher's expertise being able to fix a problem. So we know that fixing things and getting them back to where they were and to be compared with other international countries is going to take some time. But tell me why, if we've got a professional coaching setup, you see players getting, I'll stick to Athenaeus, for example, a guy that I like, in terms of potential. But after a while, you've got to ask yourself, why does he get out playing with his bat so far away from his body consistently? Can somebody like Mr. Butcher, somebody who understands batting inside out, it might not be fixed in 2 weeks, 2 months, but you would see the improvement. Why is it that we have bowlers who are all over the map, right? They're in camp, they're working with these coaches, and they're spraying the ball all over the place? Why is it that we have bowlers who don't understand the science of the ball, what it does, what the seam position? I heard Neil Wagner on, I think it was his mainland the second test. He and Mr. Bishop, Ian Bishop, took the audience to school in terms of the various seam position. Like, I'm not there, so maybe Mr. Butcher can speak to it, but it seems to me as though our bowlers, whether fast, medium, apart from maybe Graves, don't seem, and Seals, have that ability to really assess the conditions and play and change your style and what's needed, what's demanded for the conditions. Because if you look at, for example, I'm not trying to knock him, like Philip, like it seemed to me as though he was doing the exact same thing every time he ran up. So if he's on a fast, really responsive pitch, he's going to bowl the same way that he does on a pitch that doesn't have much life. So I'm just saying, yes, we need time to get the players to a higher level, but there must be some things that we can do in the short term to improve the ability to be more competitive with the stock that we have.
Before we get
First
an
thing-
expert like
first thing-
Roland, or even before we go
before we
back to
go-
Terry, I can help you with the Athenaeus thing for sure. And even I think the situation with Philip was touched on when Roland talked about coaching. But the Athenaeus situation, I remember Athenaeus scoring some runs in the regional competition, and there was this big call for Athenaeus to be brought into the team. I remember in one of the chats, there's even a guy who was ready to spend his own money to go, but I assume he's spending his own money to go whatever tour it was at the time. I don't remember where they were going, South Africa or wherever. To see him make his test debut, and he was really acid because he didn't make it. This is after the guy has scored one set of runs in regional cricket. Now, when you miss steps, okay, well, I think everybody knows my background in education, and I've seen some very brilliant students over time, but I've never seen any who did so well in first format primary school that somebody sent them to the university directly. There are phases that you go through. Yeah, a fella may skip a step sometimes, but you don't go from primary school to university because you can struggle. All right. So when you don't have a proper 18 program and you take players from an already dubious or first class competition of dubious quality and you put them in the test team, what do you expect? And we've been saying that so I think that explains Athenaeus, because had he gone through the system, these things would have been spotted before. And then you would have had a chance to work on them. But there's no money, they say. There seems to be money for everything else except for cricket development. And that's really the problem. I don't think we need Roland to tell us that. Right? Roland may answer to that. But that's to me, that's fairly clear. The other thing there, Terry, you were saying that you can't really learn anything from the 80s. And I kind of get what you mean, because you're saying there are modern tools that one can adapt, but there's some things you can learn from the 80s because they are there from the start of time. Things like discipline. All right. And if I go down that road, I don't need to name any others. You can get where I'm going with that. So there's certain basics that you still need to apply. But I agree with you. I think I understand what you're saying, that there are other tools out there. And then the way in which you deal with the athletes may be a little bit different because you're dealing with a different type of person. I think any school teacher can tell you this. Well, I shouldn't say any school teacher. The school teachers who've been around for a long time, maybe those who've been teaching 30 years or so and still in the system, they would be able to tell you that they cannot deal with students today the way they dealt with students when they were 5 years into the job. Because if they were to do that, they wouldn't get results. So yes, there are things that have to change, but there's certain things that don't change or shouldn't change. And one of those things is discipline, respect, things like that, Terry. From the 80s, from the 70s, from the beginning of time, I don't think those things change. Terry, you wanted to say something, and then I think we have to go to Roland.
Yeah, I was following up on some of that Steve was saying, but our problem is that we don't think out things to a logical end, right? And it's happening all life in the Caribbean. We don't think things out to its logical end. You adopt something, you see it work somewhere else, but you did not look and see how it came up. No, Athenaeus. I don't know if Athenaeus, I don't know who coach Athenaeus. I don't know who is any of his handlers, but what I'm going to tell you is we are happy with beating our chests for being better than just the other mediocre guy. You understand me? Like, we are happy to be better than the other mediocre guy. I'm just happy to be a small fish in this small pond than be a small fish operating in the ocean. So we are happy. Like I said with Barbados won the on the 17, we thump our chest and blah blah blah, and we talk all sorts of things. We got 9,000 players that can play Test cricket, and yet still we have not produced a batter who have a Test average of over 40 since Desmond Haynes. He retired in 95. But yeah, still he's beating with chest and keeps saying.
When you say we, you're talking about Barbados, right?
Barbados.
Okay, right.
So I'm saying to you is that Barbados, we hit ourselves on our chest and we say how great we are and that sort of stuff, but we have not produced the closest to 40 we've gotten was Craig. I think Craig is 33 and Sherwin Campbell is 31. Think about that. Just think about that from 1995 to now. And we feel that what we are doing is oh so great. It can't be great. But I know a lot of people don't like to hear data, but if you look at the numbers, it tells you a story. You can misinterpret the story, but the numbers don't lie, right? I think the problem is we want the numbers to lie. And we try to massage stories so that it will sound good, right? So we won a lot of regional tournaments. I think we just won something. What was on the 13th just beat Guyana. The on the 17th win. I mean, we are doing really well. But ask anybody that know anything about cricket, and then me, people like Mr. Butcher, ask them if we have a cricketer that you can actually see dominating at the international level. And they know they ain't tell yeah.
But that's partly the fault of the selectors back in the 80s, because there was an off spinner that they left out to the junior team. And had he had a fair chance, he would not have gone to basketball, and he would have probably gone on to be a world beater by now. But let's get back to reality. Stephen, I think you want to step in and say something quickly before we go to Roland. Roland, we coming to you. But I think Stephen, I wanted to pop in there. Is that correct, Stephen?
No, I yield the floor and let Mr. Butcher take over at this point in time.
Roland, you can't let us down now, because they've all given way to you, and as long as you are willing to unmute yourself, we can hear what you have to add.
Right, Philip, what I would say is that a big problem that we have in Barbados and across the Caribbean, and it's also a problem where we encounter all of these other problems as well, as when it comes to players, is that we as administrators, coaches, supporters, we have a mentality of about winning. That is the biggest problem that we have. It's about winning. We do not understand or believe the process. And I'll use a great example. I mean, I was sent a video this last week of the Barbados under 13 team returning to Barbados from Guyana on a goodwill tour. And I thought they had won the World Cup. This video has 99,000 people
including the president
at the airport. And the flags waving and the banners and the press and everybody. I mean, that's the biggest lot of nonsense that I've ever heard in all my life. What is more important is, of those 13-year-olds, who has shown you the promise that you can now work to develop going forward? But instead, we will just accept the glory we won in Ghana, and nobody will be able to tell you which of those players have got a chance of going any further. And that's just an example there. But that's used all around the cricket. That is why, because we are results driven, once a player is succeeding, everything is fine, right? But everything is not fine, because you may be bigger than the players you're playing with. So you can hit the ball harder, you get away with it. That doesn't mean your technique will stand up at another level. So we got to get away from being results driven to process driven. And that is a huge problem for us, not just in Barbados, but across the Caribbean. We can talk about it in Barbados, and hardly can. We love to say that we won. As you said, we've beaten the other mediocre people, so we're the best in a small pool. No. I keep trying to tell these people, you've got to judge yourself globally. How do I stack up against my counterparts elsewhere in the world? That video really stuck in my mind this week, and it is driving me crazy, because I thought a 13-year-old side have just won the World Cup, for the West Indies and this grand return in home?
Guys, I'm enjoying this so much that it's hard to bring an end to it at any given point in time. But of course, all good things must come to an end. We are not at the point yet where that has to happen. But before we do get there, I want to address a couple of specific things because these are things that kept cropping up during the Test series with New Zealand. And the issue of the wicketkeeper, we start off with Hartley. And see where we go from there. But the issue of the wicket keeping, the issue of the leadership and things of that nature. Hartley?
We do not have any problem with the wicket keeping. We have a problem with persons pushing an agenda, their personal agenda as to who should keep wicket. And they have now beclouded the issue by saying, oh, you do not really need your best wicket keeper. You need a batter who can go behind the stump and catch the ball. So we have a number of wicket keepers within our region who are good wicket keepers and who can bat. Our issue is who are we going to play our best wicketkeeper batter? That's what we have to do. We have to play our best wicketkeeper batter. And it doesn't bother me where he is from because Roland made the issue. This is West Indies cricket. And if you can get all the best come out of the Windward Islands, I'm going to support them, Our problem is that we are now playing quarter cricket. And the director himself made a statement earlier this year when he said that every territory got to get some players. So right now we are not playing the best. We are playing quarters. And because of that, we have mediocrity now. We go to Jamaica and you point a youngster, if he 1 year, he scores some runs, put him in West Indies. We did it with Andrew. We did it with Athenaeus. We dropped Hodge out of the West Indies setup. A man who had just come from England, making a century, an important century, and finding his feet and making comfortable. We threw him away because we wanted to bring in some other players that who in the regional cricket, they didn't do anything because we have been hearing the statistics, all of them. But if you're in your 30s, if you're in your 20s at regional cricket and you step up to international where you play the 11 best in that of this country, where you can't make the runs. And so we talk about the wicketkeeping. We have no problem with it. We have to play our best wicketkeeper batter. Not our best batter who is going to go behind the center. Because like that, then you can get Mr. Galvanize and put there. We want our best wicketkeeper batter.
If I may come back in here, guys, whatever is the issue, because again, I go back to my background as an educator, and it is painful when I see people being used as scapegoats. And the campaign against young Tevin in black, it really hurts. I've never met the young man. But here's a player who represented us at the under 19 level and with success and has done his best for Guyana over the last few years. And yes, it is clear that his batting has some issues. So too the 6 batsmen who bat before him. Should we therefore throw him away to bring back a batsman who's averaging 25 or 24? Okay. What about trying to develop our young players rather than just bring them in, tossing them away when they're not good enough, and bring back the next mediocre player? And so it pains me that we can't get to the point where we see that we need to work on the shortcomings of players. So Terry, where am I going with this?
I know.
Stephen, see if you could do a better job.
Listen,
Well,
I'm talking
I
about
tell
my
you,
effective high performance
yeah, I
program.
understand.
And I know
Listen,
that you know that, Terry.
listen, we know you're a pet peeve.
No, but but
but
seriously though, it is really painful to
but
have
to
a
be
campaign against any young cricketer, any cricketer, but especially a young cricketer, because the other young men who see these things, and we wonder why people go and play basketball, where they go and play table tennis, where they go and play billiards, where they go and play marbles, because they see what is going on and they don't want to be a part of it. Because what has been happening to Imla in terms of the comments about him, it's bordering on being nasty, man. I really don't like it. This is not to say the young man doesn't have problems. Do you solve those problems by tossing him to the wolves, or do you solve those problems by trying to get help for him?
but that's the issue with every player in our setup, really.
Yes, but he's the one that
So
is the scapegoat to the day. That's why I use
right.
it.
So our problem is not Wicketkeeper. Our problem is that we're scoring the runs.
And as I
Listen,
said,
if
Terry,
our top five is scoring
this
runs,
is
right?
true of all the six batsmen, whichever
Right.
six you see
Listen,
above
if
him.
the top half was scoring runs, you could put me behind stumps.
Thank
You
you very much.
Well
understand?
said. Well said.
But that's there the problem come. And the same people that shout,
Although you rally by the other end bowling your off breaks.
although, right, the same people that shouting now for getting rid of Imlat is the same people that are shouting for getting rid of the silver. But no, they want to tell you that the silver is the savior. You understand? So what is going to happen? We can drop Imlat. The silver ain't coming. He still ain't scoring the runs. He can be under pressure every time he get a bat. He ain't scoring none either. And we can say,
I know
let's
he
bring in
does.
Django. And we can bring in Django. He still ain't scoring the runs. He can be under pressure all the time. He ain't scoring the runs. We can drop he. And then we can say bring Hartley Reid. Because that's the next thing we got to do. Because
yeah.
my thing
You
is,
love me, Marty.
listen, because my thing is, people, I don't know, we got, there's a long-term way of development, then there's the medium term, and then there's short term. The short term is not to be picking people and just pelting away and picking people and pelting away. That is not the short term thing. The other thing is, Mr. Butcher talked about it. We are result oriented, or we say we want results. But we cannot get results by pelting anything from the wall and hope that's saying stick. We have to have a process to get that result. And that's where we're missing. Because I don't care if the next batsman score 1,000 runs in regional cricket. He go to international level, he will not score that 1,000 runs. It ain't even gonna be close. Why? Because he's not playing against people in the region. He's playing against the top cricketers in the world.
Yeah.
You understand? So my thing is, we got to understand what we got to do. First thing, we got to put in a long-term plan, which is at the grassroots level, trying to build those people and bring people with less flaws. We got to put in a medium-term plan, which is saying, okay, the medium-term plan would be, we got these 30 people that we can have in cricket, in the test team. We can work with these 30s for X amount of time, right? And for anybody to get in that 30, they're going to be doing something more than one season.
Exceptional.
Right?
Yeah.
So then we work on that. Then we pick up the people that need the extra work and need extra help. That's a short-term thing. And we will get better, We will get better. But the problem is, right? Politicians only do things want results for their term limits. You will not hear a politician put something in thing that will bear fruit 25 years down the road, or 25 years down the road, he might not be a power. So you want anything that could bear fruit today. Cricket don't work that. Cricket development does not work like that. I don't have to be Mr. Butcher to know that. I know that cricket development don't work like that. You have to be building people right up, and then they will fail at some, because there's nothing in the Caribbean that you could give the same, that could put you in the same environment as an international cricketer. So you will build them and make sure they got the least falls as possible. You will put them in international cricket. They will find their way once they are well prepared. They will find their way. They will not find their way right away. They may not find a way, but they will find a way eventually, right? Look at Steve Waugh. Steve Waugh did bingo numbers for his first part of his career, right? All the other cricketers did bingo numbers before they really started getting, because in national cricket, it's totally different. I mean, you got 100,000 people shouting for Australia, and the biggest problem that everybody talking about is basketball. That ain't it. Australia better than them. That's it. You understand? Basketball in it. Australia is better than England. And then they play the traditional way. And they win one test match or 17. So we look for things outside of the cricket to pretend that we don't know what is wrong. Australia was better than England. They played better cricket. Even if they weren't better man for man, they played better cricket as a team. West Indies' problem is we do not have a development process. There is nothing that we can do right now that will make our team great in the short term, in another 2 months or another 3 months. It got to be a long-term thing. But in the short term, you won't be able to compete. We are not competing. And competing is not one test match. We look like world beaters, and then next test match, we look on the 15th team. That is not what you want. You want that we compete all the time. Even if we get beat, we competing. Nobody with any stretch of the imagination can say that we competing right now. We participating. There's a difference.
Well,
You're
Roland
using your
Butcher
words,
has
Kevin.
been-
You're using your words.
Yeah, Roland Butcher has been pretty quiet for a while, and when Roland is too quiet, I get nervous. So we're going to go to Roland, but before we go to Roland, I'm going to throw something out there that Roland can say whatever he wanted to say beforehand, but he could also comment on it. And I can throw it open for anybody to comment on, because we've got to go, but I want to bring that in. I noticed that everybody was so diplomatic that nobody introduced the elephant in the room. And let's call that leadership. But we're going to you, Roland, not necessarily immediately to comment on that. I'll have your say, and if you care to, you can address the issue of leadership. Because when I check what is going on in the cricket community and the comments and so on, some people have got the solution for our problems. We got to change the captain, and we're going to start to win.
Well, Philip, I really want to talk about this last test match, because
Yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
some things in this last test match was quite puzzling to me, and as well as our technical deficiencies, there was also issues in relation to our thinking processes during the game. Now, going into this test match, you're playing against, a team that are formidable at home, even a weakened team, but they're playing a spinner. Before this test match, he's got about 50 test wickets. Before this test match, this guy has 1 wicket in New Zealand. 1 wicket in New Zealand. So what that should be telling you is that basically you've got to get on top of this guy, because he's going to be a vital part of their bowling armory. Get on top of this guy early and get him out of the situation. Now, I look at the second innings in this game here. This guy who has 1 wicket before this game bowled 32 overs, of which 21 were maidens. 3 for 23. That is muddled thinking, because he could not have been extremely confident going into this test match with his record of 1 wicket, and he's played a lot of test matches, all of his wickets away from home. What was our thinking in relation to him? Because he was a key member of their side. You look at he bowled at least 10 overs more than anybody else in the second innings, and bowled 21 maidens. So as well as the problems that we have in terms of our technical batting at the moment, I'm concerned about the thinking of the game as well, because this is a glaring example here of not really understanding what needed to be done. I will leave the leadership to the leaders of the group.
Philip, before
What I would say to you though, Mr. Butcher, is that we are in survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you don't think. Your main thing is just to survive, right? So that's why it will puzzle you, right? Because you're not thinking in survival mode. You're thinking this is what we got to do because of this. You look at data, remember, looking at data, and you look at data and see that this youngster here only got 1 wicket. You in survival mode? If you're in survival mode, you're saying, oh, there we go, play against Patel. I ain't scored run 6 last year. My test average is 21. They're calling for my head. All these things in back of the head, The thing about what you're thinking is that you're thinking from a fella who is confident in your abilities, who know that this is what we gotta do to get over this fella. The rest of them fellas ain't thinking that way. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, so it's even worse because I think this series was actually his first test wicket in New Zealand because there was quite a bit of a parade when he got his wicket. So just going back to the IMLAC question, and it just baffles me that there are a lot of people who are supposed to know cricket and they go to Cricinfo, they look at the wicket keepers and they look at 2 numbers, right? Stumpings, catches, which is what traditionally cricket has done for fielding stats. Tell me if mischances, errors, missed easy stumpings, drop dollies show up on the stats. They don't. So you could look at a guy who's got 100 catches. He could have dropped 50. Where do you see that? I was watching Kerry keep to bowling in that Ashes series. Keeping up, ball down the leg side, had a stumping chance against Brooke, barely missed it. Where do you see that in the cricket stats? You never see it. So when people get into arguing about this person should be picked because he's got this many catches and he's got the most catches in the season and all this, it's nonsense. You have to appreciate whether that person is a good keeper or not. You have to understand the full context. On more than one occasion, I've heard Mr. De Silva say, I am the worst keeper in the world. Obviously, he doesn't believe that. He doesn't believe that. But looking at stumpings and catches doesn't tell the story. So if you're going to come, with an argument for one to replace the other, please bring some context, bring some facts, and not look at just the 2 numbers. I'll just make one other point in terms of what Mr. Butcher said about the 13-year-old tournament, under 13 tournament. So there's been a lot of talk about the scouting system in the Caribbean. If we're serious about it, so Barbados may have won. I don't know how many, I didn't follow that tournament, so I have no idea how many teams were playing. But let's say there was a team from the Windward Islands.
It was only
2 teams playing. Only 2.
Only 2?
It's a bilateral tournament.
It was a good one.
All right. Let's assume that there were 6 teams played, right? Let's assume there were 6 teams playing and Barbados won. So you might have had a player from, I don't know, Jamaica. Let's say Jamaica came last in the tournament, but you may have had a player who was a brilliant leg spinner. My question is, are we doing the job, whether it's under 13, under 17, under 19, that we're taking a holistic approach of the talent on display so that even though that player's team might have come last, there might be some gems out there that need to be worked with. And that's just a question. I don't know if it's being done, but if we're having an under 13 bilateral tournament, I would assume that there are a lot of under 13 players who don't even come into the equation. So
let me stop Stephen here because he has now introduced you some more programs to do where we can look for the future. Because let me go back to Roland. Roland, I said the identical thing at the beginning of this test match just concluded. You have gone to your 3rd and decisive test match. You see New Zealand bringing Patel. You may tell me that Sammy and Riffer and Griffin and those fellas down there ain't gonna say something wrong here. This pitch, you ain't gonna examine it and you're gonna look at a green top pitch in New Zealand and think it is going to be a green top forever and ever. Amen. Let me tell you something. I have made an error like that. I was the captain of the United Nations team in Namibia, and I gone out to toss, and the top green in Namibia. I said, well, I have a green top, my fast boy. The pay me about 1,000 runs off of me because they only green, but the bottom far from green. And it's simple. You mean to say that my management structure did not ask anybody at all in that part of New Zealand? Tell me something about this picture. Can I be fooled by a green top? Roland, you are quite, you are very diplomatic. I love how you put it, but I have no diplomacy in me at all. Those
Well,
men
guys,
fell down badly.
since nobody wants to address the elephant in the room,
I'll address the leadership thing though.
Leadership.
We don't have leadership in the Caribbean. They're there for leadership in every sphere of life in the Caribbean. Every sphere, not only in cricket, right? We made some decisions. I seen some decisions made, right? That I want to know people mad, right? And they are in positions of leadership. That is the problem we have. So let's say we got a dearth of leadership. How can we get somebody to lead a cricket team? We want to get somebody to lead our cricket team. You know what we do? We go and look for the fella that right now, everybody's calling for Shea because Shea is scoring runs. Shea got a test average of 29. 29. But he have 5 scores, so everybody's saying he should take over and blah, blah, blah. Then what is going to happen? He's going to tail off. He's under pressure all the time. He's going to bat number 3, and every time he left, he opening, blah, blah. He's under pressure all the time. He don't score runs. We can say we need another leadership. People being a leader, there's leaders, and then there are people who sit down on top of benches. That's what I say in basketball. There are people who are leaders, and then there's people who sit on top of the bench. That does not mean because you're on top of the bench that you're a leader. You understand? And we gotta be able to build people to actually understand how to captain a cricket team. You understand me? So you gotta understand a lot of things, and it can be taught. You can't tell me it can't be taught. It can be taught. Right? But we just do like how we do everything else. We put sand on the hat and we hope for the best. And that's where we have our problems. And we don't have no leader from CWI. We don't have no leader. We don't have leader at local territorial boards.
then we've got leaders that are so good they can lead 2 organizations at the same time.
Yeah, we have a lot of cheerleaders. We don't have leaders. We have a lot of cheerleaders. People who could, once something happens, like the under 13 winning, we can have a parade. 2 teams. 2 teams. And not only that, I want to address one other thing that I saw in the chat written in the Anything Cricket chat. The argument was the age group for the
Competition.
age group, the 13 age, the range for the 13 to be on the 13 was changed, right? And Guyana ended up playing people who were outside of that range. Fella is 2 teams in a ICC tournament, in a Cricket West Indies tournament. Cheese on bread, man. Let the people play.
Terry, I saw that discussion going on for quite a while in more than one chat, if I remember correctly. And when I discovered what it was about, I didn't even bother to follow the other, because when I first saw this discussion about age, I thought this was some major tournament with about 20 teams or something. Right. But when I realized what it was about, I just ignored it because I thought it was just a waste of time. But
I thought they played 70-year-old. I thought they were playing a 70-year-old. I can't believe. And it's a bilateral tournament, so Barbados and Ghana can set the age if they want.
Exactly. That's exactly the thing.
I don't understand how he's thinking.
Yeah. So, but that was more about trivial things. But to get back to your point about Shea Hope captaincy, I respect all these players, and I have nothing good or nothing bad to say about any of them. But in terms of the folly of the suggestion for Shea Hope to take over, I say folly not because Shea Hope is a bad captain, but because of the thinking. All right. Now you've got Chase, who is leading the test side, that's not doing well. He's not doing well either. And therefore, that's consuming our thoughts. And we're looking at who is doing well with the bat. And of course, you looked at how that could work out down the road. But even before you get down the road, here's a guy who is captaining two teams, a white ball team, a T20 team, and a 50-over team. And he has a losing record in both. And you want to bring him now to captain the third team as a solution to the guy who's captaining that team and not winning anything. So you're the leader of, you're the CEO of Quick Vision, Terry. All right. And you're looking for, or you're the owner, and you're looking for a CEO. So you're going to hire a guy who is in charge of two companies and both failing.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
I hope that you met my team. I hope that you met my
So that shows the folly in our thinking, the muddled thinking that we have at all levels. All right. And as I said, there's nothing against Shea Hope. You know, Shea Hope may turn out to be a very successful captain. All I'm saying is you've got a captain now who's losing, and you want to replace him with a guy who is losing because he's scoring runs. And since nobody wants to address the issue, I'm going to address the issue because clearly we don't know the quality, we don't know how to assess the qualities of a leader as it relates to a cricket team. So therefore, since we don't know, and since the performance of the leader is of paramount importance to everybody, at least everybody that I've heard on the matter, here's a suggestion. And I say this in all seriousness. For every test match, choose the 11 players you want on the park, and then choose the captain. Because that way, you don't have to waste time worrying about if the captain can make the team or not. And you can put that energy, that mental energy, into something else. All right? It may sound ridiculous. It's been done before. I think maybe if we look around the room here, the only person who may or may not, Hardy may know what I'm talking about. Hardy, do you remember when you had when West Indies entertained and every territory they went to, they had a different captain?
But I am not that old, but it happened. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. It used to happen, yes. British, then you know British Guyana, so you don't know how long you going back, you know. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and that was done for different reasons. But I'm saying
Yes.
that would at least that would quieten the distractors, not the people who are distracting from the real problem of West Indies cricket by talking about a captain who is scoring runs. Okay, we wouldn't be able to talk about that if we pick the team and then out of each playing 11. It doesn't mean you have a different captain every time, you know, because Justin Graves would have been captain, let's say, after the double century, would have been captain for the next game. All right. But then, of course, after a couple of failures, then we probably would change the captain. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to change the captain every time. He will captain for as long as he's informed and as long as he's hot. And I don't know, Roland, you were a selector. You've played at all sorts of levels. What do you think about that?
Absolute lunacy.
I thank you. I thank you. I thank you.
Sorry, Ax.
No, I'm joking. Listen, I credit for your thought processes on that, but it's not a route that I would want to go down because you know, a captain is someone that you're supposed to have that trust and respect, and you want to lead, want to be led by, etc. So if I'm going to be doing that every other game because a guy fails and he gets dropped and another guy takes over, you wouldn't have a leader. What you would have is somebody rotating seats.
Do we want the leader? Because we spend so much time worrying about what the captain does with the bat or the ball.
Well, you do.
I've got an alternative suggestion because I know you're going to tell me that the leader must be able to perform, but nobody is performing consistently, Roland.
True. But what I'm saying about a captain has to do more than just spin the toss and change the bowling. You know, there's things that he has to do off the field. And
I agree with you, but John Public and in some cases, even those who make these decisions don't seem to appreciate that. So we're focusing on the performance of the captain, which I understand. Nobody is performing.
No, right. But listen, even if you've got a very bad team, you still need to have a leader, right?
So how do you solve that problem when nobody is performing?
Well, you mean the best person who can bring that team, that group of people, to some degree of discipline, etc., etc. I mean, he may not be somebody who can make them win, but you still need to have a leader. Otherwise, you're going to be a rebel group of people just doing what they want to do. So somebody must be in charge to be able to say, Philip, no, you cannot do that.
Okay.
So
Well, I got an
somebody,
alternative suggestion to my what do you call it? The lunacy. I suggest Kemar Roach then, because he's the only one who can make the team on performance.
Oh, that.
well,
Kemar Roach, he's the only world class player they have in New Zealand.
Where you ever see you watch Captain? You ever see you watch Captain? Not even he get.
But hello,
Not even
hardly,
his
hardly, hardly. I'm not the one who is saying that the leader
But
must
no one
must
get in
see.
that conversation because of the forced conversation. Because I can tell you
Hardly,
something.
hardly.
Watch me. Listen, wait a minute. We saw Sheho captaining an ODI game,
Oh,
and we saw the vice captain walk off, as Harry Joseph. Walk off because he had an issue with his captain. So listen to me. When I heard, but listen, what makes me smile? Because I have been around so long. I was in the system. So the people in the chat who are just, you call them fans. I smile. Something you didn't hear me getting the issue with the on the 90, on the 13, and you didn't hear me getting the issue with this captain thing because this is just emotion. It is just emotive thinking. So I don't get it. They say, and I ain't get it no either. I don't
okay.
get
Fair
it.
enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I was just trying to find a solution to, because people seem to think that we change the captain and we're going to start winning. So I just want to offer some alternatives.
Change the
But
director of cricket.
sorry?
Change the director of cricket.
Yeah, because
Change
as
the
I said,
chief selector.
but at least you understand my
Yes, I with you.
crazy thinking. That is that
I
the captain
empathize with
must be a
you.
performer.
I am empathizing with you.
The only person in the West Indies squad, and this is just my opinion. I mean, Stephen and Terry, the statsmen, can support it, or otherwise can find the evidence to support it, or whatever. But there's no one, to my mind, in New Zealand, all right, unless Viv Richards or somebody out there, who I would consider a world-class cricketer other than Kemar Roach. And that means that on any given day, I would expect Kemar Roach to perform, and on the rare occasion, he will not perform. All of the others, most of the time, they're not performing. So therefore, you have reduced your candidates for captaincy based on the
Simple
understanding of
deduction.
captaincy
Simple
that
deduction.
is common in our community, not based on Philip Hackett's requirements for leader, because I know better. But I'm responding to what the community is expecting of a captain. And I'm saying nobody other than Roach qualifies. Yes,
Philip,
Roland.
where I would back you here is, I mean, you may not want me backing you all the time, but I'll back you here.
I am very nervous when you were very quiet for a long time, and then even when you start these comments with what do you call it, Terry?
No. I'm going to agree here to some degree with you. And one thing is, Roach would command respect.
Yes.
Right, and a leader must have respect from his team.
Yes.
For a start, if you don't respect your leader, you're not going to follow him. You're not going to perform for him. So I would agree with you on that point that he would have respect among the team because the team would recognize what he has done as a West Indies cricketer for a long period, what he has achieved, and he would have a degree of that support from the team. The only question now we're going to be, which Charlie's asking, is what would be his technical abilities in doing the job, having not done it before. So those were the things that would have to come into play. But in terms of respect, that first hurdle, you would have that for sure.
Okay,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, but if I can cap that whole captaincy thing off, don't think for a minute, guys, that I have a problem when it comes to the current situation. Okay, I am simply addressing the situation as is expressed by the cricket community, who are upset because the current captain isn't performing. And all I'm saying is that if that is the criteria for captaincy, we got a very short list. That's basically where I'm going with that. It may sound ridiculous, and I actually think it probably is, which underlines the ridiculous discussion that has been going on surrounding the current captain. All right,
Philip,
what I would say before you jump in, Stephen, Because I lose my train of thought very, very, very easily. What I would suggest is that we work on our cricketers, on our cricket in the region. And when we can do that effectively, and even before we've maxed that out, and even as we do that, we will find that we will become close to what Australia is right now. So Australia, whether led by Steve Smith, whether led by Pat Cummins, and there was a guy who was before Cummins, what was his name again? The keeper who
Payne.
Tim Payne.
Yeah.
So whether it's Tim Payne, whether it's Cummins, whether it's Steve Smith, you've got an Australian team that performs at a particular level. Okay? I'm not saying they're going to win all the time. When we get our cricketers up to an acceptable standard, our team can be captained by Roston Chase, Shea Hope, or maybe even Terry. And that's not to say that leadership is not important. It is to say that you cannot expect a team of players who are not up to the standard to go out there and beat people because you got a magic captain. Ain't gonna happen. Focus on the real problem, which is the standard of our cricket and our cricketers. And the other things will sort themselves out.
All I would say
Stephen,
is that
Stephen.
I'm not gonna put any energy, pretty much like Brother Hartley, into that discussion because I don't think there's a whole lot to be gained. I wish we could take some of that energy and do two things. Figure out how to make an average of 300 runs per innings and figure out how we're going to take 20 wickets per match in different conditions. That's where we need to put our energy. And as far as this, who should be captain and who should not be captain, it's wasted energy as far as I'm concerned, because replacing the captain is not going to make a difference in the outcome if we can't score 300 runs per innings and we can't take 20 wickets in a test match. That's my position on it.
And you've actually said the same thing I've said in different words. So we agree on
You
that.
feel it would make a difference if they had a different captain on the Titanic?
We've run out of time.
I'm just
Oh Lord,
before
Terry!
Before Terry gets into a competition with me to see who is going to come up with the more ridiculous suggestions, I think we're going to quit while we're ahead, guys. So unless somebody has a burning comment to make, we probably could just simply call it quits for now.
Merry Christmas.
Well,
Thank you,
Philip, just before you go, we haven't dwelled too much on this series, but I think when we look back at the series, what we will find is there were not a lot of positives. Okay, we drew that test match, but it covered up a whole multitude of sins. Throughout the whole series, we lost, 56 wickets to 36 New Zealand wickets lost in the series. We set another world record, first time in the history of first class cricket that two openers have scored 200s each in the same game. When our bowling is supposed to be our strength. So that, for me, is something that we cannot be too proud about. And it ended up being 2-0. We got that draw, but can we be happy coming away from this New Zealand tour? I don't think so. I think there's still as many questions as there are answers at the end of this tour. We have not moved in any direction forward. If anything, we may have even moved a little bit further backwards. So there's so much work to be done.
Well said, Roland. Thanks, Roland. Thanks to you, Terry. Thanks to you, Hartley, and Stephen as well. Thanks to you, gentlemen. It's been great. And let's hope we can get together again very soon. Thanks to you for taking the time to listen and watch. Please do join us again on another occasion for another episode of Anything Cricket. Let's talk.